All right, welcome to Hawk Talk Podcast. I'm Anthony Traina, and I am so excited for this episode. This is an episode that I've had a conversation with Mr. Nelson for quite some time. Our guest today is Mr. Denis Nelson, the athletic director here at Riverdale High School. Over the past few years, we've kind of talked about the topics that we're going to talk about today, and I have to get him in because he is retiring. Congratulations on your retirement. How does that feel?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the congratulations. It feels good. It's been, an unbelievable experience here for me at Riverdale. I've been blessed and fortunate to be the athletic director for as long as I have. It's a special place. It's a great school. But I'm ready to go on to the next chapter too.
So I've been here, Mr. Nelson's been here 23 years. I've been here 19 years. One of the first things that I heard when I came here is the aura or the stigma of Riverdale is Rumordale. Like a lot of rumors. Like there's a rumor that there was supposed to be a pool on the roof, but instead they put the facade out front. There's a rumor that is kind of true that there's tunnels underneath the floors, which, maybe we'll do a podcast on that. And the other rumor is the Hawk. As you can see behind me, and we'll kind of put up on the screen, is the Riverdale Hawk. Now, this was drawn by a current Riverdale employee, but he was a senior here at the high school on the football team. And there was a letter or something sent about the original Hawk, which is the Iowa Hawkeye logo, and we'll see that up there. So that's what it was, and you got a letter, and kind of take us through that process.
Yeah, so as with many things Rumordale related, there is some truth in what you hear sometimes. Sometimes there's none at all, but in this case, there is some truth. So we were widely using what is called the Tiger Hawk. That's what Iowa calls the Hawkeye that you had seen up there. It was on our wrestling mats. It was on a number of uniforms. And we received a cease and desist letter from the Iowa Athletic Department about use of their copyrighted symbol, the Tiger Hawk.
So I know when we were planning this show, I was like, do you have the letter? And you don't have the letter anymore. What did it say? Like, give me like a basic overview. Was it like, hey, we're coming at you? Like, you have 60 days, 90 days?
It was pretty serious in nature and threatened some legal action. It was from one of their associate athletic directors. It was legitimate, and it was sent not only to Riverdale, but to multiple high schools in New Jersey that have a hawk mascot or something like that were using it. The other one that I remember was Manchester Township High School, which is down in the Shore Conference.
And they had the same logo.
They were using the same logo, that Iowa Tiger Hawk. So there was not a veiled threat, a fairly direct threat about legal action if we continued to use it, if we didn't stop using it. So we took it seriously and began the process of phasing out use of that symbol.
So this is around, like, I spoke to Casey a little bit about it. This was around, like, 2004, 2005, 6 time?
Maybe even 2003, 2004, 2005.
So my one question is, like, we were kind of planning for this, and Westwood has the Cardinal logo. So is it dependent on if that company or whoever owns the logo is kind of mad and they want you to stop?
That's correct. It really depends upon the owner of the logo, whoever has the copyright rights, and how they feel about its use elsewhere. Now, some of the Cardinal logos at Westwood, for example, some would appear to be an exact duplicate of the professional football NFL Arizona Cardinals. Some others are definitely different enough where they probably, and I don't believe they've ever received any kind of documentation to stop using it.
Was there ever the option of licensing it for Riverdale? Were they like, hey, you have to pay this amount?
We asked about that, and they declined. So we attempted to continue using it. We responded, and they responded to us, and
no, we're
they did not move off of their cease and desist.
Oh, okay.
That was the end of that.
That's interesting. They're like, hey, they can make some money from it. So, what I know from talking to Casey a few weeks ago, and Casey, if I get it wrong, just shoot me an email and I'll like put up some sort of video. So he was on the football team.
Yes.
The head coach at the time was
Angelo DeSalvo,
and he knew Casey was into art, and he was like, hey, I need a logo for the helmet, and he was like, okay, so we drew a logo. Gave it to him, and nothing was said. And then he found out, like, a year or two later while he was in college, is like, hey, one of his friends, like, I don't think text was there, probably sent him a you got mail kind of dial-up internet connection, and was like, hey, they're using it, and they did use it for pretty much everything. How long did it take to kind of phase out the old one and get this one
It
in?
took a couple of years because when you have that symbol on something like a wrestling mat, which has a fairly long lifetime, we weren't going to dispose of the wrestling mats. We weren't really able to make that change. But once we got new mats, we, pivoted to the new symbol. What I loved about it is that, a coach of ours, Angelo DeSalvo at the time, had asked one of his student athletes to come up with something, and that we could use something that was created by a student athlete who, lo and behold, then becomes a staff member also. Ironically, we only used it on the helmets for 1 year.
Okay.
But as you know, it's everywhere else now.
Yeah, so they
all
use it
over
on the
school.
helmets, and now the helmets are all gold, kind of like Notre Dame.
It's actually more of a tribute to West Point, to
Okay.
Army.
Okay.
One of the first coaches in Riverdale's history, Tom Cahill, went from Riverdale to Army as a coach.
Oh, wow.
And the team quickly kind of took on that look and has had it ever since. So that's some of the history of that.
So the logo's been almost 20,
Probably about 20 years.
Has
yeah.
there ever been any talk of kind of modifying it or changing it or kind of updating it?
I would say no, not really. Not in regards to that hawk head logo, but the other one that's used is kind of the interlocking RD.
Yeah.
So we kind of use both of those. And as I'm sure people are aware, we kind of have the two golds. The old gold like
Yeah.
on the Army or Notre Dame helmets, and the yellow gold or like almost like a Packer gold, which is technically the school color, as I know it, is that yellow gold. But we have the other gold.
So I know
pretty
Mr.
prominent.
Tucci, who was a longtime art teacher here, fantastic guy. He had actually went to the Board of Ed or maybe the Miss Brooks, who was the principal at the time, or the superintendent. It was like, hey, can we come up with a Pantone color that was like, this is, because there's so many different
Yes, there are.
variations of Riverdale, gold, yellow. So has that ever been a talk or some sort of possibility to be like, hey, sit down, maybe have a committee of students, faculty members, staff, people in the community, be like, hey, this is what we think the Riverdale.
It's never gotten to that level. In fact, very recently, when we were doing the portrait of a graduate, there was discussion of what is the yellow.
Okay.
But it never went to, forming a committee or.
Well, this is going to
nailing
blow
it
up,
down.
and it's going to be like, go viral. So based off of this podcast,
It
maybe
sounds
maybe
like
we can,
a project for
maybe we
Mike
can-
Toda.
Yeah. That's kind of going to my next thing. So obviously you're retiring.
Yes.
And Mike Toda, a teacher here, is taking over. Great guy. Excited to see what he can do with the program. What would be some of the more difficult things as the athletic director that you faced over the years? And if you want to share any stories, we're happy to hear stories
Okay.
about kind of throwing people under the bus. You might not want to say names, but we're definitely looking for some solid stories.
No, this is probably not going to be as exciting as you would think. There is a good amount of problem solving that comes with the job. Some of that is very mundane, on the daily scheduling things, stuff of that nature. The more difficult items to deal with are if coaches are having issues, if student athletes are having issues, if coaches and student athletes together are having issues. Fortunately, that's not all that common. It's few and far between. Sometimes parental interaction is difficult because they may see things differently than we see them for their student athlete in terms of the overall experience or the playing time, position, strategy.
How often do you
whatever
get
it might
playing
be.
time emails?
Not a ton.
Okay.
I have to say probably far less than a lot of my colleagues get.
Okay.
But they still exist. And trying to explain that it's our prerogative and that it's our program and that we entrust our coaches to make those decisions and that we're not seeking parental input on those kind of decisions, isn't always an easy conversation. But
I love that line. I'm not seeking parental input.
Input on-
That's a good one. That's a great line.
yeah, I've used it several times in the past. And I would say another area that is difficult, unpleasant, can be event management. When we have games going on and people aren't acting the way that they should be acting at an education-based athletic event.
Friday night football games.
It could be, to be honest, we have less issues there
Okay.
than we do sometimes at soccer games, than we do at home basketball games. Or the indoor events tend to be more volatile that way.
Because they're closer.
Yep, and you can hear everything.
hear everything.
So that can be unpleasant. That can be no fun. The students, if they're acting in that way, they're almost immediately compliant when they're asked to be. It's adults that tend to be more of a problem in that regard. And it's also, you know, telling somebody, hey, you can't act like that is never, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
a
they're
fun
they're an
conversation to
adult. You
have.
would hope they would be more mature and like, you know.
Most people respond very positively. Some do not, you know, and we have had, you know, we have police officers and law enforcement at those games for a variety of security reasons, but sometimes it's to walk people out because they just can't do what we need them to do.
Wow, the walk of shame, as
I
you
would
need
certainly
to.
call it that.
Anybody ever get walked out in handcuffs?
No, we've been able to
Knock on wood.
avoid
We're
that.
not.
And that's a credit to the Oradell Police Department, who show great restraint and really diffuse those situations probably better than I would.
So what's the best part of being the athletic director here at Riverdale?
The best part for me is seeing our student athletes compete, participate, succeed. You know, I get to see a ton of athletic events. So seeing them have a positive experience, you know, with their coaches, with their teammates, you know, winning a game they didn't think they could win. Those are, you know, easily, you know, some of the most gratifying and satisfying moments. You know, winning championships, of course, is fun for everybody.
So give me the top 2 or 3 moments that you were at sports-wise here at Riverdale.
There's going to be so many more than 2 or 3.
If you want to add more to that, then you can.
I would say they're all going to involve winning, which is obviously a part of it. The football state championships at Giant Stadium and then MetLife were, you know, unbelievable. Volleyball winning several state groups, and even you know, a state sectional final or a semifinal on the way to some of those. Those are some of the most thrilling, you know, outcomes in games that I've seen. Wrestling winning a sectional title, a district title. There have been a soccer championship, girls basketball sectional titles. There really are so many. We've been very successful, very fortunate that way. So, you know, that never gets old. That's exciting. And there were multiple times this year where, you know, wins in the playoffs in football, in basketball, where it's, you know, it's just exciting stuff, or even on the way to those.
So you got to pick one moment. I have one in mind that I know was repeated. It was, I don't even know the situation where it was in the playoffs, but I remember, I forget who we were playing. It might have been Dumont or something, and Brian Long hits the game-winning 3-point shot.
It was Tenafly.
And it's funny because if you ever watch the video, maybe we'll find it and put it up. You see Mr. Nelson's across diagonally away from the student section, and he just runs around everybody to keep the student section up in the bleachers because they were about to charge the court.
I was worried for, you know, what could happen if they came onto the court. That was certainly, you know, very dramatic, very exciting.
Was that a playoff game or a regular?
It was a regular season game.
Okay.
Had a lot of meaning in terms of, you know, standings in the league
Yeah.
and power points for playoffs, and it was near the end of the year.
Because at the end of that game, it was back and forth. Like, they went up, and then I forget his first name, May. His last name's May.
Tommy May.
Tommy May hit a shot, a couple free throws or a shot. So then we went up, and then they hit like a crazy shot to go up. And then Brian Long, I think it was Brian Long.
It was Brian Long.
Brought it up with like 4 seconds left and just drained a 3-pointer.
Just beyond, kind of in between the 3-point line and half court. It was a long range shot.
It was a Steph Curry shot.
It was, and it was, you know, anytime you have a buzzer beater like that, and we've had, you know, several over the years.
Yeah.
We've had some where you lose like that too, and that's, you know, that's difficult. One of the most exciting games that I ever remember, and it wasn't even a championship game, it was a semifinal on the way, and it was a home game here, was for football when we beat Demarest in like a 44-41 game. I might be wrong on the score, but it was back and forth, and we looked dead to rights and converted a couple of first downs and then scored a touchdown late. They threw it into the end zone. It got knocked down. It was, you know, and then the next week or two later, we beat Ramapo in the state sectional final.
Do you ever trash talk the other ADs? Like, is there ever like, hey, we're cut, like, or make like a side bet? Like, you know how like sometimes the mayors of the cities will make kind of like bets.
The ADs, it's funny. It's an extremely collegial group of education professionals. While we're all competing against one another, with one another, we're all very friendly. It's a very close knit group. There's quite a bond there. I think we trash talk and make fun of each other personally, but
Okay,
not so much.
not about the athletics.
Really,
It's
not
just
about
like-
the athletics ever.
Okay.
That I recall. Nothing like that. It's way more of a friendly banter where we're kind of like friends would, making fun of each other. But it never really involves the games or the teams or anything of that nature.
So speaking of the other ADs, I actually sent you a couple questions before, and I was like, "Hey, what committees are you on?" And I was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
So I actually wrote it down. So, and I'm going to read it out
Okay.
loud. So you are part of all these committees, and we're going to kind of talk about Super Football Conference, North Jersey Girls Interscholastic Lacrosse League, Bergen County Directors of Athletics Association, the NJSIAA Eligibility Committee, NJSIAA Non-Public Football Seating Committee, NJSIAA Non-Public Wrestling Seating Committee, National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association Hall of Fame Committee.
I think you left out Big North, maybe.
You did not.
Did I not put that
You did
on
not
there?
put that in there.
I have a
You got
meeting
tired.
tomorrow.
You got tired
Yeah.
typing. You're like, yeah, that's gonna. How do you find time to do all this stuff?
Well, I think that's been an evolution over the years where now that I have some experience, I either had leadership positions and kind of transitioned onto those executive committees. And it's something that I have found to be very rewarding also and gratifying, working with other ADs to kind of direct the direction of the conference or the leagues, doing divisional alignments, doing schedules, making some decisions that not only affect our school but affect the other 40 schools in the Big North or the other 50-something schools in Bergen County. And again, getting to work with my colleagues in athletic administration is something that I find fun and rewarding too. So it's I think I have a problem saying no. That's a part of it for sure. I learned a little bit better about that, as I've gone through the years, but still struggle with it. So when people kind of ask you if you'd be willing to help out and be involved in this way, I have a hard time saying no to something like that.
That's part of being in education.
I
right?
agree.
And then especially you do such a great job with what you do. Obviously, they're going to ask you.
Thank you.
If they're not asking you for help, then there's something wrong. Like they're like, okay, you could just stay over there. So 23 years at Riverdale. Athlete Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, this is very difficult because we've had so many. But I think being involved with our Hall of Fame, our athletic Hall of Fame, certainly helps. In my time, in my 23 years, there have been some incredible, outstanding, and this could be a Mount Rushmore that could have 100 faces on it. But if I'm going to quickly limit, I'm never going to be able to stick to 4. But I would some of the ones that come to mind immediately. I'm going to say Will and Colin Daly.
Okay. We're going to put
I'm
them
gonna
as
count
one.
them as
We're
one.
going to count
All
them
right,
as
good.
one.
That helps.
I'm sure they love being like lopped together as twins
Maybe
all
not,
the time.
but
Okay.
they might be understanding in this regard. And
The Daly twins who did track.
yes, Christine Woods,
Okay.
who exceptional volleyball, basketball, and track. Christina Allen, who just graduated last year, another track athlete, and David Estevez.
Okay.
And there are, I could quickly go Ryan Duran, Kevin Barry, Tim Barnes, Shannon Goria, the Merkovich twins. There's so many others.
Not Brian Pepe's not getting on that
Well,
Mount Rushmore.
he graduated before I started.
Oh, but if he was in your time,
He'd be in the top 100.
101.
Maybe.
Okay, so coaching Mount Rushmore.
And this is extremely difficult too.
Listen, when you have a great program, obviously this is going to be difficult.
So I would tend to favor longevity and success in combination, and we have again so many great coaches to choose from when it comes to that. And again, way more than 4, but off the top of my head, Mike Urso and Diane Furusawa are 2 that were here already. When I got here, I can't take credit, for them. Brian Long hired them, and what great hires they were. DJ Nymphius, in my time here, has been exceptional, and nobody has, encouraged student athletes to do multiple sports than he has. And I would say probably Mike Toda also, who's going to be the next AD, ran an exceptional wrestling program, turned the reins over to Nick and Barinello, and they continue to do exceptionally well. And Chris Arman with our swim program, and we certainly can't forget someone like Coach Jose Ortiz, 36 years of service as the head boys golf coach, over 700 wins, a state championship. He's absolutely Mount Rushmore material. And, Michelle Karsich, so many others. Brandon Flanagan is a Hall of Fame worthy baseball coach who's now our assistant principal, and he did that for 20 years. So
So your Mount Rushmore is now like 8 deep, 9 deep,
probably.
maybe, but it's okay.
Lil Wainert for girls basketball too. Brian Long, but he's already in the Hall of Fame.
I can't wait to get an email tomorrow or later today, be like, "Hey, these are other people that I wanted to add to my Mount Rushmore."
Right, yeah.
So 23 years at Riverdale, retiring. You obviously did a ton of stuff outside of Riverdale and also here. You're gonna have a lot of free time on your hands. What's the plan? What's the plan after September 1st?
I've been asked that quite a bit by friends, family, colleagues, and I do not have a plan at this time.
Okay.
I have roughly 3 months to figure something. But my plan actually is in September and October, just to kind of step back, see what options or opportunities I might have, and then kind of figure out what I want to do next. I've had a lot of retirees tell me two things. A, how great it is, and B, don't rush into something right away after retirement. That, I want to continue working and do something else. I'm not exactly sure what that is yet or what that looks like, and I've been told not to rush into it. That it'll develop, it'll evolve, and then you'll know what's right for you when the time is right too.
Play some golf and some pickleball.
I might do some of that. Yeah.
Pickleball's fun.
I heard the beach is nice in September. Might go out to dinner with my wife on a Friday night.
Oh, there you go.
Something.
When was the last time you did that?
Friday night. I don't know. Out of football season, it happens occasionally. Yeah. Whatever I do, it'll probably involve less nights and weekends.
Okay.
I've said that too. But yeah, I'll figure that out, and I'm going to take some time to figure that out.
Well, thank you very much for coming. I just want to say, over the years we've had a great relationship, especially during the
Agreed.
COVID situation of like live streaming stuff and putting stuff together. That was a interesting time, to say the least.
Those were, I would say, for me, the most challenging times I had as an AD were during the COVID year or two, for sure.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate it. Good
Thank
luck
you,
in
Anthony.
everything you do.
Much appreciated.
Thanks very much
you.
for being on the show. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any suggestions on our next Hawk Talk podcast, obviously we're going to try to stick with like the history of Riverdale and what goes on here, kind of seeing behind the curtain of over the years. We would appreciate shooting us an email at rdtv@riverdale.org. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.